John chapter 1, verses 43 to 51. Philip and Nathanael. We'll meet three people in this section, show you who they are. The word that we will be featuring is number 190, follow. And we will be going into adverbs, which are highlighted in green and adjectives brown. And it begins in verse 43. Te apavrion, etheleison exelthen is ten Galilean. And the next day he wanted to go forth into Galilee. And I'm pretty sure that would be he would be Jesus. Ke evriski Philippon, and he finds Philip. Ke legi avto o Isus akoluthi me. Now earlier we see Andrew that told his brother Simon about Jesus. He was a disciple of John, Andrew was, and it tells us that he led Simon to Jesus and that they were both fishermen. And then at the 5,000 being fed miraculously by Jesus, Andrew tells Jesus about the lad with the loaves and the fishes in John 6:8. But Philip is also there. The Greeks wanted to see Jesus, and they go to Philip, who goes to Andrew, and that's in chapter 12 of John, verses 20 to 23. So Andrew is very close to Jesus, more so than Philip, it seems like. And then later, with Peter, James, and John, Andrew's at the temple when they see how these great stones and ask Jesus about them, and Jesus tells them about the signs of the end times, and that's in Mark 13:3. Now, go back to Philip here. Jesus sees him someplace. Philip is not the evangelist of Acts, of the 7 evangelists that's mentioned in the book of Acts, of a Philip being one of them. Philip probably heard about Jesus and from Andrew and Peter, or he heard about John the Baptist, and he was there, and this is where Jesus found him. And then later again, during the 5,000 being fed, Jesus questions Philip of where they're going to get food for the 5,000. That's in John 6:5, and then Andrew says that there is the young lads with the fishes and the loaves. So Jesus says to follow me. Number 190. It only appears 6 times in the Old Testament, 91 times in the New Testament. Matthew 8:22, it says, "But Jesus said to him, follow me, and allow the dead to bury their own dead," to a man that wanted to follow him. And then in Matthew 9:9, Matthew the tax collector, he says to him, follow me. So another person to follow Jesus. In Matthew 19:21, it says, and come, follow me. And that would have been the rich man that is mentioned. These are all people that were called. Jesus called the 12 apostles. I think there's actually 13 apostles, the 13th being you and I. We are called by Jesus to follow him, not a church, not a pastor or a priest, rabbi, but to follow Jesus. And the best way to follow Jesus that I see is through his word, because he's communicating with us in the Bible, and we can see what he wants us to do and what he tells us not to do for us to follow him. In 44, it begins and says, in they o Philippos apo Bethsaida ectis polios Andreu ke Petru. So he was probably a fisherman. It doesn't say for sure, I don't believe. But he was living in the same place, and Jesus was there. In verse 45, it continues, Evriski Philippos ton Nathanael. Now this Nathanael, only mentioned again in John 21:2 at the resurrection, where he was there, although he's among the 11 or 12 apostles in many places whenever they were all gathered together, of course. But now there was a Bartholomew, who was never mentioned here in the book of John. Many people think that he is the same person for the reason of all the Gospels mention Nathanael, except John, but they don't mention a Bartholomew. And Bartholomew is not mentioned in John, but Nathanael is. So Bartholomew has Bartholomeo. And you remember now we have Simon Bar-Jonah. Bar is son of Jonah. Now this could very well be his given name or last name, whatever you call him, Nathanael Bartholomew, son of Tholomeo. So this Philip then finds Nathanael, and he says to him, On egrapse Moses entonomo ke I prophete evrikamen, isun ton ion to Iosif, the one whom Moses wrote in the law, and that would have been in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 15 to 19, about the prophet. And they were waiting for this prophet to arrive like Moses. And then we have found, then in the prophets, we have many places where it talks about the Christos, the anointed one. And if you go to a Hebrew Bible and you look up wherever Christos in the Greek appears, and then you look in the Hebrew Bible, it would be Messiah. And we have a Messiah, which was, I think, only mentioned by the woman at the well, the Samaritan, when Jesus was there, and she mentions a Messiah coming. So he tells them that this Jesus is soon the son of Joseph from Nazareth. Ke ipan avto Nathanael, and Nathanael said to him, Ek Nazareth, dinate ti agathon ine? Is there anything good able to come from out of Nazareth? Nazareth? Legi avto, which was up in Galilee. Legi avto Philippos, and Philip says to him, Urku keide, come and see. Now, they didn't know that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, as far as I know. It doesn't mention that only in the book of Luke, and I believe Luke later came back and talked to Mary, and she told him the story of the Nativity and the story of Zacharias and Elizabeth, and he wrote them down in the book of Luke, because it's not mentioned in any other book. And so it continues then in verse 47, Ethan o Isus ton Nathanael erchomenon prosavton, and Jesus beheld Nathanael coming to him. Ke legi peri avtu, and he says concerning him, Ide alithos Israelitis en o dholus uk esti. Truly, an Israelite in whom there is not deceit. Tholos, 1388. That word is also translated in other places in a positive way, sort of, cunning. The person was cunning, was able to figure things out better than other people, but also in the negative, treachery. In Matthew 26:4, it says, and they were advising that they should seized Jesus by treachery and should kill him. And that treachery there is the same word of doulos. Acts 13:10, I think it was Peter who said, "O one full of all treachery and villainy." And that was Elymas the Magus, the one of the Magi, magician sort of. And then 1 Peter 2:22, Peter says, Jesus, who did not sin, nor was there treachery found in his mouth, or guile, or deceit. And then later he says Peter says in chapter 3, verse 10, for the one wanting to love life and to behold good days, let him cease his tongue from evil and his lips to not speak deceit, to be straightforward. So deceit, treachery, and cunning. Legi avto Nathanael, Nathanael says to him, Pothen me genoskis, from what place do you know me? It's like, what do you know about me? Apokrithi o Isus ke ipan avto, and Jesus answered and said to him, Pro tu se Philippon phonise onta ipotin sikin idon se. Before Philip called you, so he hadn't even heard of Jesus because Philip hadn't even called him. He says, being under the fig tree, I beheld you. Now, whatever he was doing, we don't know, but it sure did affect and hit him right in the spot. He knew whatever it was he was doing or praying or asking or something that was very significant in Nathanael's life, that when he heard this, what did he say? Apokrithi Nathanael ke legi, and Nathanael responded and says to him, Avto, Ravi, ci o ios tu theou, ci o vasilefs to Israel. Rabbi, so he calls him a rabbi now. Before, didn't probably say anything. Now he's giving him a title of a rabbi, which is quite a thing. You just don't give everybody a title of a rabbi, but yet he did. But then he goes on further. You are the Son of God. Well, how did he know he was the Son of God? Did Philip tell him, or did Jesus tell him, or was he given this information spiritually? So that's to tell somebody you are the Son of God. Wow. And then you are the King of Israel. And he finishes up telling what's going to happen with Jesus, that he is the King of Israel, acknowledging all these things just by Jesus saying he saw him under the fig tree. And what does Jesus say about that? He's Apokrithi Isus ke ipanavto, and Jesus responded and said to him, Oti ipon si idon se ipokato ti sikis pistevis, because I said to you, I beheld you under the fig tree, you believe? Mizon tuton opsi, greater of these you will see. This is just a beginning for you, Nathanael. Ke legi avto, and he says to him, Amen, amen, lego imin. Amen, amen, I say to you, aparti opsisthe ton uranon aneogota, ke tus angelus tu theou anavenontas, ke katavinontas epi ton ion tu anthropou. Amen, I say to you, from now on you shall see the heaven opening. Now that might have been when Jesus went up into heaven, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Now it doesn't say anything in the Gospels that I could find of the angels ascending or descending upon Jesus where they could all see it, but this is going to happen. When it will happen, when Nathanael sees this, we don't know, but Nathanael is now being prepared for a fantastic walk with the Lord, just as we are prepared also. God sees us under the fig tree. He knows everything that we're doing and we're thinking. And knowing that should give us a lot of comfort and fear. Comfort that we know that He cares, and fear that we don't want to do something that offends Jesus. The next section, the wedding at Cana.